Today, we are going on a journey. A really surprising one, actually. We're going to trace the evolution of human resources, from a simple clerk on a factory floor all the way to a high-tech strategic player in the modern workspace. It's a story that tells us a lot about how we think about work and what we truly value in people. All right, let's get into it. So let me ask you, when you hear the words human resources or just HR, what pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's probably stuff like hiring, firing, payroll, maybe some tricky conversations. And look, that's not wrong, but it's like saying an iceberg is just the tip. It's such a tiny part of the real story.
The truth is, the world of HR has gone through this huge, incredible transformation. It's moved way beyond that old school view of just being about paperwork and paychecks. The modern version, it's about shaping the entire company culture, using deep data analytics to make smart decisions, and focusing on how every single employee can grow. This whole explainer is about that journey, how we got from that to this.
So we're going to walk through 5 key eras. We'll start at the very beginning, then move through the age of control, a human revolution, the rise of the strategic partner, and land right where we are now in the digital talent era. First up, let's map out this transformation from clerk to strategist. Because really, the story of HR is the story of how companies slowly, and then all at once, realized that people aren't just a cost to be managed. They're the most valuable asset you could possibly have. And you can really see the whole path laid out here. It all kicks off in the Industrial Revolution, gets obsessed with efficiency during the era of scientific management, and then bam, everything changes with the human relations movement. That sets the stage for the strategic and digital worlds of today. Let's start right at the beginning. Welcome to the age of control. Think about it. The Industrial Revolution creates these massive factories, practically overnight. The biggest challenge wasn't about employee engagement or company culture. It was about simple, brute force control. And this is where the first version of HR was born. It was called personnel management. And that name tells you everything you need to know. The whole point was to manage the personnel, who were basically seen as interchangeable parts, like widgets or tons of coal. The goals were simple: squeeze out maximum productivity and make sure everyone followed the rules. So, what did a personnel clerk actually do all day? Well, it was all about transactions, hiring cheap labor for the factory floor, punching time cards to track hours and wages, enforcing really strict rules about being on time, and of course, making sure the company wasn't breaking the handful of labor laws that were starting to pop up. It was all about managing the hands, not engaging the minds. But then, right in the middle of the 20th century, something incredible happened. A series of experiments accidentally stumbled upon a truth that would completely flip the world of work on its head. This was the beginning of the human revolution. And this is the moment everything changed. Researchers were doing these things called the Hawthorne studies. They were just trying to figure out if, say, better lighting would make factory workers more productive. But they discovered something way more powerful. It turned out that when they simply paid attention to the workers, when they asked for their opinions and made them feel seen, productivity shot through the roof. It didn't matter what the lighting was. It was a bombshell realization. People are not just cogs in a machine. This discovery totally changed the game for HR. The focus did a complete 180. All of a sudden, the conversation was about employee satisfaction. It was about opening up lines of communication and getting feedback. It was about treating the workplace like a community, a culture. And for the very first time, companies started investing in training and development for their people. Now, this new way of thinking leads us directly into our next big era. As we moved into the late 20th century, that human relations idea grew into something even bigger, HR becoming a real strategic partner in the business. And this was the fundamental mind shift. Business leaders finally started to get it. In a world where your competitors could copy your technology or build a similar factory, what was the one thing they couldn't replicate? Your people, their skills, their creativity, their motivation. That was the ultimate competitive advantage. So HR's job became strategic. It wasn't just about keeping people happy anymore. It was about connecting the people strategy directly to the business's bottom line. This meant focusing on 3 huge pillars. First, talent acquisition, getting the absolute best people through the door. Second, performance management, making sure those people were doing their best work. And third, learning and development, investing in them so they'd want to stay and grow with the company. And that brings us right up to today, to the digital talent era. Technology, AI, and big data haven't just tweaked HR. They have fundamentally rewired it, putting everything that came before on hyperdrive. I mean, just look at the difference. Recruiting used to be about putting an ad in the newspaper. Now, it's about using AI to find perfect candidates and building a compelling brand on social media. Development wasn't much more than a boring classroom session. Today, it's personalized e-learning on your phone. And maybe the biggest change of all, decisions used to be based on gut instinct. Now, they're driven by hard data and people analytics.
And the challenges today are just way more complex. Modern HR is leading the charge on incredibly important initiatives like diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're the ones using data to predict what the workforce will need next. And of course, they are figuring out how to make this whole new world of remote and hybrid work actually work.
So if you take one thing away, let it be this. HR has gone from being a simple cost center, a department that just spends money, to being a critical value driver that makes the company money. That whole journey reflects one of the biggest ideas in business today. At the end of the day, your talent is your ultimate competitive advantage, period. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. As AI gets better and better at handling all the data and the routine tasks, what's left? What is the uniquely human part of human resources that's going to matter most in the future? Now that is something to think about.